What's up, you filthy casuals? Welcome to the Casual Shenanigans Gaming Podcast, a podcast all about everything PC gaming related. I am one of your hosts, Germ Gaming, and tonight I'm joined by Dave.
Hey folks, I am Dave, the not-so-evil Viking 13.
And ChalkOne from the Battlefield Podcast.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
We are doing quite well tonight. Welcome to the show. This week has been a very big week with E3, so we're going to launch right into the news. This pretty much all pertains to E3. And we're going to start with the weirdest named thing on the list, the Roccat Sova. Have you heard of the Roccat Sova?
Is it a mouse?
Not.
Well, you've heard of Roccat, like you're familiar with, or Rocket, or however you want to say it. The Sova, S-O-V-A, I can't help but think this is a riff on the word sofa. What it is a keyboard with a mouse pad that sticks out the side. It has USB ports, it has channels to run your cables. It's like a lap board, but it has a keyboard built into it. And has USB ports, big competitive mouse pad with an extension. If, I don't know, you want to hold your mouse 2 feet away from the keyboard, they can accommodate that.
Sounds like a Battlefield gun unlock, extended mouse pad.
It's more useful than some of them are.
Yeah.
No prices are announced yet, no exact release date, but this actually might be the thing that I get to game in the living room. Like it looks really good. Like there's things you can get. There's a massive thing they sell in Europe. What's it called, the Couch Master or something? Like it's these big pads that go around your legs and this big board that goes on top. And it pretty much takes up a whole couch. Like it's not really practical, and I don't think you can even use it in a recliner or something. But this looks like something that could work really well. So I'm excited about the Roccat Sova, and they're coming up with a lot of very innovative products, like their 35 button mouse we talked about last week, or not 35, I think 12 button mouse, 12 button mouse. So, you know,
Ultra says it needs a cup holder.
I actually
use like an aluminum Razer mouse pad for gaming on the couch, which is actually nice, except for if you don't brace it against your leg right, because I do lay down when I'm gaming on the couch. I mean, you got to have the whole experience, right? If you don't brace it right, like as soon as you pick up the controller to drive or use the controller at all, the mouse just like slides slowly to the side and your guy's like spinning slowly in a circle. So I might be interested in this actually.
I mean, it looks really cool.
Do you actually play
idea.
PC games from your couch?
Yeah, I am that
Dave,
guy.
go ahead and drop on everybody what you've done in your Frankenstein setup.
The year I got married, about 4 years ago now, we did a house remodel. So we had like all the walls open, and I ran, like 12 lines of Cat 6 from my office all over the house. So I run HDMI from my desktop computer here in the office to my TV and sound system in the living room. So I just plug in my HDMI behind my computer, and it all just pops over to my TV in the living room. I plug in my wireless mouse and my controller, and then lay down on the couch. And it's actually really responsive. I was surprised at how well it worked.
Huh.
I am that guy, though.
So he's not turning to like Steam and home streaming or something. He's really gaming on his desktop PC, which I'm thinking about. I've got an HDMI switch. All I need to do is get like a 25-foot HDMI cable, and I'm ready to go. So you tempt me a lot because it works so well for you.
The limit for HDMI is 16.4 feet.
That's not true. I'm using a 25-foot cable right now.
Okay, I read something wrong then.
Maybe it's meters instead of feet or something like that.
I've installed 75-foot HDMI cables. Beyond like 100 feet, you either have to have boosters or you have to convert to Ethernet. And I think they have to be one way at that point, but it's definitely possible.
Huh. Yeah, I knew my run of Cat 6 was like 180 feet.
Yeah,
and that was definitely
HDMI
beyond.
does not go that far.
I'm surprised actually it goes up to 100. That's kind of awesome.
I think it's up to 100. I know it's at least 75, but it's somewhere in that range. Maybe 30 meters sounds right.
I was playing it way safe. I'm like, I just paid like $300 for all this cabling. All the walls are open. I'm only going to sheetrock once. Like this is only happening once. So.
All right, Dave, you missed the time code on that news item. Just letting you know, no judgment. But
sorry, I was too busy participating in the podcast.
I mean, you know,
do
Joel,
your slave
Joel
work.
normally gets them in. It's the Patreon perks. Don't suggest a perk if you don't want to fulfill it. Okay, Grand Theft Auto 5, big surprise. It's coming to the PC. Of course, that was one of my E3 predictions. Was there would be no GTA for PC or next gen consoles. So I'm wrong. Woo! But they have announced it for the PS4 and the Xbox One, and then kind of buried in there was, oh yeah, and the PC too. And it looks awesome if you've seen comparisons between like the PS4 and PS3 versions. I mean, it looked good on the PS3. Like, it really pushed the system pretty hard, but it looks astounding on the PS4. So I can only imagine the PC will, of course, look better. It will also have better textures, and they say it will have a really nice movie editor. Like, there was a film editor built into Grand Theft Auto 4 that was decent, but this is supposed to be like a really, really nice one.
And that will only be on the PC, that editor.
Correct. And pre-orders are available now, but there's no reason to pre-order it, so don't.
Not after GTA 4.
Well, just why would you pre-order a digital game that doesn't give you a discount or any perks? Like, what's the advantage? So right at midnight you can play it? Like, wait the 30 minutes while it downloads. I mean, it's like...
But hype train, choo-choo.
It's not coming out for like 4 or 5 months. We don't even have an exact date yet.
Yeah.
So please, no one pre-order this game. Because, wait and see if it's a horribly optimized piece of garbage. Like Grand Theft Auto 4 was, before you throw any money down on it. I hope it isn't, and the fact that the new consoles are x86 means that it probably will run decently well, but, there's no reason to spend your money on it. Like, if they do a deal where you can get it for half price by pre-ordering, maybe it's worth talking about, but anyway.
Apparently the PC versions and the next-gen consoles are getting, like, extra environment stuff, too. Like, there's entire layers of vegetation, bushes, grass, like, all that stuff, where on the Xbox 360... it's literally just a blocky, polygonal, blurry terrain texture. There's nothing else. And like one tree every acre is all there is. So you look at the side-by-side comparison, and it's like N64 to PS3 differences. It's pretty wild.
I wouldn't go that far. I would say PS2 to PS3.
Okay, but side-by-side, it's awful. Like, it's really bad.
You're the person, Dave, who can sit there and go, no, that's not a 4x anti-aliasing. That's only 2. It looks like garbage. Not everyone's looking at that granular of a detail. You're like, the subsurface scattering could be a little better. I've seen better subsurface scattering.
I wonder if the GTA Online should be fun on PC, because I played GTA 5 on I think I played on the 360, and I didn't ever get into the multiplayer stuff because of Xbox Live and all the stuff. But on PC, where so many of us are hanging out and playing games online, that could be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope everyone in my friend circle buys this online, because I can just see like a 16-man server packed with all the people I know, and that will be a lot of degenerates playing Grand Theft Auto together. And it excites me.
It might be one of the few games I'll actually buy a second time.
Yeah.
I don't usually do that.
Yeah. I bought it on PS3, played it, sold it, and I mean, if it's good, if it runs well, I will buy it immediately as soon as...
Just for the mods, even.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. A Grand Theft Auto game, it's an investment, because you can play it for the next 5 years with crazy... Yeah. I want to see what like the ENBs are going to look like for that game.
It's so weird to step back and go, oh yeah, sorry guys, GTA 4 has no official mod support, and you look at what's out there, and it's insane. People are nuts. Nothing's stopping them.
Anselmo in chat says, I already played it. Why would I buy it again for better graphics? I know why I'd buy it again, so I can play it at 60 FPS so the driving doesn't feel so rubbery, and I can shoot at things with a mouse. That would be a big difference. That would make all of the story missions much easier.
And also to choose a different ending. Like in that game, you have to make a couple choices that alter the way the story goes. And
that's true. Yeah.
I wasn't all that happy with mine, but I wasn't about to go back and do it again on 360.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah. Like on Grand Theft Auto 4, I did the same thing. I bought it, played it on PS3, sold it, bought it again when it came out for PC, and I played through most of the game with just a Glock, because if you can headshot people, like it's just so much easier. Yeah. The game becomes so easy to play. So
I got to sell all my games. I keep forgetting that every time I buy a game for a console, they're just all piling up over there.
Because you're so used to like once you buy it, you have it. Like you can't do anything about it.
You can't really sell your PC games, right?
Not really. I mean, well,
by the way,
not at all.
Over in chat, Boy Blinky did redeem me. It's 16.4 feet for USB. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it seems like a weird limitation, but of course I don't understand how USB works. But
USB is super, super low power. To get my wireless mouse and all in there, I actually ran Cat 6 to a USB hub behind the TV, just because you don't want to run anything that's actually just USB. So I convert from USB to the back of the motherboard to Cat 6, back to the hub, back to USB to the controller.
I may need to talk to you about that, because I've got a project coming up where I'm going to try to run HDMI 300 feet. So,
whoa.
Talk to you about it later.
Yeah, like a couple houses down the road or something like that.
Yeah, who are you stealing?
A professional job coming up.
Who are you stealing Blu-ray from? It's a little excessive.
Yeah, the back of the neighbor's like cable box. I just have an HDMI switch I've installed, and I've just run all.
Guys, I'm watching Lord of the Rings Extended Edition. Get over here.
Did either of you guys watch the Ubisoft press conference?
I missed it.
Yeah, I missed the. Yeah, I missed the.
It was at a weird time. I think that was the one that was like at 6 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah.
It was an awesome press conference though. I liked because they weren't trying to be so corporate. They cursed, made fun of the E3, like made fun of the whole E3 experience.
Actually, I did watch a little bit of that. That was Isha Tyler hosting that, right? Okay, I saw a bit of that.
Yeah, she always hosts it.
And she did curse.
She does all the time. And other people were too. What I think is funny is people give her crap for like being a fake gamer or whatever. But she talks like that in everything she does, except for network television.
Well, yeah.
But like if you listen to her podcast or anything, she's a pretty cool person as a host. But the Ubisoft press conference in itself was really awesome. But the thing I was most excited about, they showed off, well, the Division was really good, but they also showed off Rainbow Six Siege. Rainbow Six has been gone for a long time. And did you guys see the video for Siege?
This is one of those games that makes me feel old because I used to play all the original Rainbow Six games and even then played them with buddies like back in college or something like that many, many years ago. And I had no idea that anything like this was coming out. So when I saw that and watched the trailer, I was like, holy crap.
Well, because there was Rainbow Six Patriots was being worked on and then it was canceled.
The last one I looked at was, what was it, Vegas?
There's Vegas 2. There was a Vegas 2.
See, I never looked at that one at all.
They were okay, but they were kind of at that point it had been kind of distilled down some. But this looks to be it's a like 4v4 multiplayer. That's the big emphasis. It's a multiplayer competitive shooter, and it looks like your options are pretty varied. Like it looks like imagine the speed and fluidity of Left 4 Dead, coupled with the setting of Rainbow Six, where like you're freeing hostages and breaking into buildings and stuff, and it looked really awesome. And you didn't know what it was. I think people were starting to guess in the crowd that it was Rainbow Six, but they didn't tell you what it was until the very end. So yeah, I was super excited about that when I saw it. Like it looks like this could be the triumphant reboot of Rainbow Six, which I guess makes me feel a little bit better given that there was very little new IP showed off at the show. But
yeah, it's true.
Alienware, we talked about them a couple of weeks ago, that they've said that their Steam machine is going to be one of their least profitable computers ever. Well, it turns out they are not doing what most of the Steam machine makers are doing, where you just take an existing desktop computer, install Steam OS on it, and then ship it to people. They've actually done this custom-built box. It's officially now called the Alienware Alpha. It's going to be $550. Now, they were going to launch it with Steam OS and the Steam controller, but since the Steam controller is being pushed back to 2015, they're going to launch it this fall with Windows 8.1 and an Xbox controller. But they said they're going to update it as soon as the Steam controller is released. They'll start selling them that way. And of course, owners of the existing alphas can just roll them over to Steam OS for free. But it's $550, and it is smaller than an Xbox One. It's similar to a PS4 in size. It got a lot of custom-built parts, but you will be able to upgrade stuff. The specs are, for $550, you get an i3 Haswell processor, an NVIDIA Maxwell-based GPU. It's kind of based off a mobile part, and it's going to have 2 gigs of dedicated memory, a 500 gig hard drive, 4 gigs of memory, dual-band wireless AC with Bluetooth,
nice.
HDMI out, HDMI in with pass-through, so you can use this for TV.
Oh, that's good.
If you're missing those Xbox One features, like if you're like, oh, the TV inputs was what going to get me to buy an Xbox One.
TV.
Gigabit Ethernet, optical audio, 2 USB 3 ports, 2 USB 2 ports. So that's for $550. That's we don't know much about the GPU, but chances are that's going to be a bit faster than a PS4 or an Xbox One. And you'll be able to get i5 and i7 processors, 8 gigs of RAM, 1 or 2 terabyte hard drives. Like you can change out pretty much anything, they said. Now you're going to have to buy probably some of those parts from them, but they said they're going to build upgrades for them. Like they plan on this becoming a thing.
Yeah.
What occurred to me was, there's so many people talking about building Steam machines. There's like 12 vendors are theoretically on board and have showed off stuff. Alienware isn't just Alienware. They are Dell. They're the quasi-enthusiast arm of Dell. And what occurred to me was like, they don't really care if this one makes a lot of money. I bet they're hoping this takes off 5 years down the road, like most things Valve does. Like, they're not immediate successes, but they slowly build into some stuff that people like. I bet they're hoping that all the boutique makers will give up when they're not profitable initially, and then like 3 or 4 years from now, Alienware makes Steam machines, you know? I can't support that with any facts. That's just my prediction, is that's what they're hoping for, but it's pretty cool. It's a pretty decent value. Like, it's definitely price competitive.
Yeah, that's really good for Alienware, especially.
Yeah, especially for Alienware. It's size competitive, price competitive, form factor, everything like is very console-like. But if you really want to get one, I guess just go ahead and wait till they release the SteamOS one, unless you're in a big hurry. Okay. What's the next item? Cliffhorse. Have you guys heard about Cliffhorse?
What is Cliffhorse?
No.
It's Notch's new game. Creator of Minecraft has created Cliffhorse, a game with procedurally generated cliffs that you run around on with a horse.
Wait, is that the actual name of the game?
Procedurally generated cliffs.
Here, drop in a link in chat. You buy it with Dogecoin. You have to send Dogecoin, but you don't actually have to send any money. It's Windows only, no guarantee of future updates, and then you can just download it. And all you do is run around in this crappy graphics world with a horse on cliffs. But it's been downloaded a bunch of times because Notch made it. So I figured it was worth mentioning.
Oh, I like that. It says, click send money here and then download here.
Yeah.
You just click on download.
Kind of the honor system, but
sounds like Notch.
So yeah. Anyway.
That was at E3, or did that
no,
just
no,
happen?
That was just going to say. That didn't really make a big splash
either.
Yeah, he had his whole press conference. It was like, guys, my new game.
Where was the Cliffhorse booth? They have an actual horse, like a petting zoo in E3. Just add to the smells.
Dave, crazy new DayZ news.
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong. DayZ is being moved to the Crytek engine.
CryEngine 7, actually.
It's
being developed by Crytek and the NSA.
Oh, nice.
So they're moving everything over to the CryEngine, and everything you haven't liked about DayZ will automatically be gone, and they're rolling this out next week, right?
Yeah, to avoid the permadeath kind of thing happening so often, you're going to have the power suit from Crysis, actually, as well as the gravity gun from Half-Life.
Awesome. I can't wait. Now, could you fill us in on some of the details of this?
Those 2 million sales, that money's got to go somewhere. I mean, you buy up all the IPs. This was like actually just really more of that journalism. Like, did he say new engine? Like, everything is moving. No, they're not scrapping the game. They're not restarting. And what's actually happening is the continuation of what they've been doing for a year and a half now. They started with the ARMA 2 branch of the Real Virtuality Engine, and they have taken out so much of it that they are finally branding this new engine as Infusion, a pretty appropriate name if you ask me. It's going to be a combination of the ARMA 2.5 Real Virtuality Engine branch, a part of the Carrier Command engine from a 2012 Bohemia game, and that engine was their first attempt at looking at doing an engine that could support multi-platform titles. And then about 1/3 whole new code, new physics packages, AI packages, all just for DayZ. So it's definitely a Franken engine, but the idea here is at the end, it'll be a DirectX 11 and 10 renderer for the graphics.
I'm excited about that. That should be a decent upgrade.
Yeah, so no more flashlights clipping through walls, no more limitation for lights or object
theoretically,
placements.
Let's not get super pumped yet, but they said there won't be.
That was a quote from Dean about the flashlights, actually.
I know.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've worked on this for a while. I mean, it's not like
Yes.
they just came up with this like, hey, we're going to start work on a new engine tomorrow. I mean,
Yeah.
sure they've been running that internally.
Yeah, this is really just the like putting a name to all the work they've been doing. It is very, very exciting because at the end of this whole process, what I would like to see and what I'm hoping for is we'll have all the best parts of ARMA, the ballistics, that like grounded to the ground simulation like feeling with not 2008 graphics, and with more responsive controls and UI and more solid multiplayer and stuff like that. In the end, with any luck and with how much work they're putting into it, we should have the best of all the worlds.
All
I'm
the
optimistic,
worlds?
at least.
Okay.
All the worlds. This actually is the promised land of games. I'm not overselling it. No,
Welcome
not at
to
all.
the hype train with Evil Viking 13.
Yeah, and actually, as part of that same news, Bohemia Interactive is continuing to buy Eastern European game studios, like the Borg, just swallowing them up. DayZ's team is now at 160 people.
I was going to make a mail order game studio joke, but the Borg works.
Yeah, I like the mail order, though. That works pretty well. Gosh, I wonder how many studios they bought now. It's at least like 2 or 3 separate studios that they've just like merged into Bohemia. Like, you are now a Bohemia satellite studio. And it's weird to think that, just over a year ago, back when they were still working on that core architecture, DayZ's team was like 5 people. They had a couple of artists like working freelance contracts, mainly like just dropping off assets for testing. A couple of programmers working on core architecture, and Dean hammering out the core of the game. And now they're at 160 and over 2 million sales. It's pretty wild.
Pretty wild. So yeah, just to be clear, because there's a lot of misinformation going around, Infusion is just the evolution of their current engine. It is not a brand new engine, which when I read the headline at first, I got super pumped and I thought it was a brand new engine too. It is not that. But it will probably, people won't really notice the whole new engine-ness of it until they go over to the new renderer, because at that point it'll look like when you went from the mod to the standalone, there was a significant bump in visual fidelity. It'll probably be the same thing. Like you go, whoa,
Yeah.
tessellation on things. I don't know. I mean, that's a DirectX 11 feature. I don't know if they're actually going to use it or not. But if any game would use unnecessary amounts of detail on tiny objects, it would be DayZ. But.
Yeah, the 2 things I'm looking forward to the most is the DirectX 11, actually the graphics pipeline optimizations, including culling, camera culling. They can get so much better about not rendering things that you don't need to render, because right now you go into a city in DayZ and that current version of the engine, and it's actually rendering all of those building interiors in a bubble around your player, whether you can see them or not. And that's a huge waste of rendering and CPU overhead.
And that certainly explains why the frame rates always drop when you get into any kind of city in DayZ.
Yes, the current version of the engine, I believe, has DirectX 8 and 9 support. It goes back,
DirectX
goes back to 8.
I don't even
DirectX
remember.
8.
How long ago was 8?
2005, I think? 2006? 2005.
I'm pretty sure Half-Life 2 ran on DirectX 9.
Did
Or
it?
did it
8
run on
sounds
8?
like a long time ago.
Yeah,
I don't know.
that's some Operation Flashpoint heritage right there coming back. So yeah, I want to see that the better optimizations that comes with the newer DirectXs, then the better lighting is super exciting. Like DayZ, the nighttime, that large of a map, that detail in the cities, like some good lighting, it could get really spooky and awesome to see like flashlights moving in an apartment building across the city, and a flare goes out off in the distance. And I've seen renders of, on their website, actually, an internal build that had fog, which was pretty sweet looking. Kind of like ARMA 3 style ambient fog at night. So I'm a little bit pumped.
So just because I felt the need to look it up, but DirectX 8 came out in November of 2000. 9 was in 2003.
Yeah, so Half-Life 2 did.
Man,
they got a lot of use out of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
9's like
9,
the reliable
10
workhorse.
was 2006.
Oh, wow.
10 was Vista.
It was
Vista.
the Vista exclusive.
Vista was 2006. That just blew my mind. Wow. I think we're all old now.
We are.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, that's the DayZ news. You'll never know when it was in the podcast because Dave didn't type in the stinking time
My
code.
timer's actually off, so I'm going to give up at this point and just go back and add them all at the end.
Your timer is off?
Yeah, I started it late, so I'm tired of calculating. I don't like addition.
You make me sad. Okay, so
Well, Joel's not here, so someone has to.
we have mail. Mail time. I hate saying it like Joel does, but I feel like I have to at this point. If anyone wondering where Joel is or has been for the past 2 weeks, I can't remember where he was last week. But this
He
week...
was at a wedding.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right, because he called in. He's doing Norman-related stuff, I believe, this week. He's like on crunch time for something, I think. That's what he said in the email earlier.
They're getting ready to start the visual effects, like, pre-stuff, like scene by scene. So Joel has to have every scene that's going to have visual effects, like, almost cut the way it needs to be for the final movie. So he's kind of in panic mode right now because he's paying for those visual effects. Like, you pay for it once, they do it once.
He's using all your Kickstarter dollars, guys. All right, so Joe wrote into Casual Shenanigans just like you can at casualshenanigans@gmail.com if you want to be a part of the show. And he says, just shooting you an email, wondering if you'd be willing/able to help me figure out parts for a new computer. Oh, yes, we would. Or if it may just be worth it to upgrade some things. The computer I currently use I built back in 2011, and I'm now having some troubles running a few newer games on even high settings. In anticipation of The Witcher 3, I suppose I should probably upgrade. Yes, you should. That game looks awesome. The dilemma is that since I built this computer, I haven't been keeping up with new hardware, and I don't really know where to start. That's okay. So here are his specs. His motherboard is an MSI 890FXA. His GPU is a 460, a GTX 460. His processor is a Phenom 965. 8 gigs of Corsair RAM, a RAID Max 700 watt power supply, and a 1 terabyte hard drive. His operating system, you can tell it's 2011. His OS is installed on a 30 gig SSD. And his case is an Antec 900. Yeah, 30 gigs. Those are actually still for sale.
You can't even do Windows updates at that point, can you?
Yeah.
Like, you have to delete the page file for sure. Like, there's... Good luck recovering anything. So... He says, I'm willing to spend around $1,500 to $1,800. My man. Oh. Yeah, I know.
Just buy a new one. Shouldn't it in?
Oh, that's don't worry. That's the recommendation.
Yeah.
If there's anything you'd recommend, I'd be happy to hear back from you guys. I just found your podcast a few weeks ago and been listening backwards to some episodes through my work week and while waiting for your new episodes. He says he enjoys listening to everything. I'm just going to skip forward a little bit. Thank you for all your kind words, Joe. I'm just not going to read them all here for time.
No, I want to hear. No.
Okay. He says he hopes to become a part of the CSG community. You're already a part. Listen to you being read out on the podcast. And sorry in advance, guys. OBS has notified me that Twitch is freaking out tonight and the stream's going to freeze. Okay. Anyway, he enjoys watching stuff streamed. He likes Dark Souls 2. He likes The Witcher. And he is curious to hear what we think about his upgrade. So would you guys agree for $1,500 to $1,800, there's nothing he should upgrade on that computer?
I mean, that computer it's got some decent basics, but if he wants to spend that much money, I would just buy all new. And actually, since he likes streaming, if he ever wants to stream, keep that other one around if he ever wants to use it as a streaming PC or just as a second PC for someone else around.
Yeah, that's not a horrible computer. Like, that could easily process an HD stream. I mean, that could do some video rendering. It's not bad, and it's also not worth much money. So you're not going to get much by selling it. So I put together a sample build. It only comes out to about $1,200 because it leaves room for you to reuse your DVD drive, your monitor, everything like that. Your 1 terabyte hard drive, you can reuse that if that's enough storage space. You can keep your case. There's no reason you can't, but I upgraded from an Antec 900 to a Corsair 200R, and the difference in usability is night and day. So if you can spare $50 in your budget for a newer case, I think the Antec 900 is showing its age. But the build I put together is pretty standard. i5 4670K, Hyper 212 cooler, ASRock Z97 motherboard, 16 gigs of Corsair RAM, Samsung 250 gig 840 EVO SSD, a Corsair 750 watt power supply, and then I threw in an R9 290 GPU because that's going to get you better than GTX 780 performance, and you get it for $415. If you like NVIDIA stuff more, you could get a 780 or a 770 or a 780 Ti. I mean, your budget has room for a 780 Ti, so that's really up to you. But I mean, do you guys see anything you would change on that or upgrade? He does have like an extra $500 he could spend if he wanted to.
I guess
nothing jumps out.
No, the CPU and the video card, like you said, it sort of comes down to choice. I've always preferred NVIDIA for the drivers for the most part, but at that point, when you have $500 to spare, you just kind of go like, "Ooh, that's fancy and shiny, and I want some of that."
Right. When you're spending $1,500 to $1,800, you're not just buying what's necessary. You're buying you're buying some fanciness. So
yeah, you're treating yourself to a fun gaming
treat yourself.
PC.
I like nice things.
But yeah, you have lots of room in this budget. That being said, if you just want to play modern games for a couple years at high settings, you don't need to spend over about $1,200. You certainly don't need to spend the whole $1,800. So if you just wanted to save some of that money, maybe if you built in 2011, I'm guessing you have like a TN LCD or something. If you want to get yourself like a nice 1440p IPS monitor, that would be a pretty nice visual upgrade.
Get one of the 120 hertz monitors. So that's one of the biggest, like visually, when you look at it, that stands out the most. When I did that, being used to just a regular 60 hertz monitor, it was kind of mind blowing. You look at that and like, wow, that it feels so different and looks so much better.
That's what I hear. I've never gamed at 120 hertz. I've only ever gamed at 60, and I wish I knew someone close who had one I could borrow to try. Because I don't want to try it enough to buy one, but because I don't like the other limitations of a lot of 120 hertz monitors. Like I like everything else about my monitor, except I guess 60 hertz means I'm suffering. Now, is your 120 hertz, is it IPS?
No, it's one of the Asus ones. Is at 144 hertz. I don't think it's IPS.
144,
it's just,
dang. Yeah. I think IPS has too much lag, I think, for you to be able to do 144.
You kind of trade off speed for, I guess, the visual quality, maybe. I don't know. I've never compared all that much. I mean, I can see that this one looks a lot better, but at work I have a high quality display, which is one of those nice Dell ones, which looks great, but it's only 60 hertz. But since I'm doing mostly gaming on this one, the difference in it, you can actually tell. Like it's almost the same as when you go from an HDD to an SD drive, and you can actually feel the difference.
Yeah,
this is one of those. So if you got a couple hundred extra dollars kicking around, I don't remember how much the price difference is. I mean, you probably end up paying $300 or something like that or more for one of those monitors. But if you're looking to burn that money, I think it's one of those things that's worth it. You actually can look at it and be like, yeah, that's something tangible that's cool to have.
But you need to be able to play the game at well over 100 FPS to take advantage of it, right?
Even if you can't, it still looks different.
Okay.
Like you still get a little bit more. Like it's not like you get 60 or 144 and nothing in between. Like it still does look better. But if you're going to add a 780 Ti or whatever and play games in there, you're going to have that anyways.
Do you usually have to, I don't know what your GPU setup is, but do you have to lower your visual settings a lot to maintain a good frame rate for the monitor? Or?
Depends on the game. I usually don't. Some games, Titanfall, I think before they patched that to, because it was locked at 60 or something like that FPS for a while. After that, you can tell the difference, but I don't know. It's one of those things that you can literally feel, like when you can see the difference, which a lot of times, you upgrade your CPU and you spend an extra $200 on that, you can. Sometimes you don't really always notice it, right? Like there's a lot of power in there. It's awesome. I spent $400 on that thing, but you don't always feel that.
So. That's one of those no going back things. Then, like once you see it,
it kind of is.
Well, it's like an SSD. Like if you want a really awesome CPU upgrade, buy an SSD, and you'll feel like you got an awesome CPU upgrade. Because the truth is, like an i3 can run Windows as fast as you need it to run. Like you're not really going to see the advantages of a lot of threads and a lot of gigahertz unless you're doing rendering, heavy editing of some kind, like something that's really going to push the GPU or the CPU. Most CPUs sit at like 10-12% running most desktop things. Like you just don't see the benefit of having a faster one because it gets pushed so little for most people. But yeah, man, I hear that about 120 hertz monitors. It's very tempting, but I want 4K. There's a couple
of web pages that if you do have a 120 hertz monitor, like it has demos on them of like moving things where it shows you the difference. And I'm sure when you're looking at HD TVs for sports and stuff like that, when they went to 120 hertz or whatever, you can see the difference in how much smoother motion is and how much less tearing there is.
It looks horrible for movies.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess it depends. You're not going to see much of a difference if you're playing Civ 5, I guess. But if you're playing something like
glorious 120 hertz glory,
Titanfall's one of those great examples because it's such a fast-paced game, and you're always moving quickly. So it's a big difference in that kind of game.
I feel like anything in the Source engine would be a good measure too, because that engine feels so silky smooth that I don't know how well it does above like 100 FPS. Because again, I play at 60 hertz, but I feel like that'd be a good one to test it with.
That's one of those things that also when you said you play at 60 FPS that a lot of people don't think about, right? They'll buy the $600 graphics card, that can give them 100, 120, 140 or more FPS in their games, but they're looking at it on a 60 hertz monitor. It's like you're not getting the full effect.
Right. Although, you'll see the potential of that 3 years from now when games finally catch up. Or you can play Watch Dogs and see what 25 feels like now.
I never had that issue. It ran great on mine.
It's running better now. It's gotten some patches. Well, what's your GPU setup?
I have a 680.
Okay. Dave has two 680s, and he was having stuttering and stuff pretty bad. I have a 290, and it runs anywhere from like 60 or 70 to the 20s, depending on what's going on. But it's gotten better with patches. Like it's definitely gotten a lot nicer.
And the game is like cracked too. Oh gosh.
It's gotten pretty fun. Not gonna lie.
I'm like 45 hours in now, if not more. It's really good. I post videos of it, but I can't stop playing.
To have nights as free as yours.
Just don't sleep.
It's a good thing you're laughing. All right, so
Just the insanity kicking in.
That's mail time. So main topic. We're gonna spend more time on Battlefield Hardline, but before we get to that, what was you guys' impression of E3? Like, what stood out to you? What was disappointing? How did you come away from this week feeling?
Well, for me, I mean, Microsoft was the first press conference, right, with the Xbox One, and I don't have an Xbox One. I don't really have any plans to get one, but I was pleasantly surprised as to how much they talked about games in that, because I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, they came right out and said, all right, this is all about games.
It's like the first thing they said.
Yeah, they didn't come out and really talk at all till the end of the conference. So,
and the other thing, before E3, I was kind of like, I don't know if there's games that I'm looking forward to. Like, a lot of times people will go into it and be like, I really want to see this particular game. I didn't really have that. And then at the end of it, I was like, shit, I need to make a giant list because I'm going to forget all these cool things I saw that I want to keep track of. So that was... I don't know if there's anything disappointing. I hear the Sony conference was not all that great, but I didn't watch that.
Yeah, because last year the Sony conference was amazing because they just one-upped everything the Xbox One announcement was about. They just beat them at their own game.
It was a cage match. It was
awesome. But this year they were just showing off games, but a lot of it Xbox had already announced. A lot of it we already knew was coming, and Sony just doesn't have a whole lot of new IP coming out. So there just wasn't a lot to blow people away. But they did show off stuff like Metal Gear and Uncharted, stuff to get everyone excited, but they didn't have anything as cool as the Halo Master Chief collection to announce or anything. I mean, that's a legitimately cool announcement. But
I've never been big into Halo, but I think if I had been, the way that they've structured that and how you can flip back and forth between like the original imagery of it, the graphics of it, and style of it to the updated version with like the press of a button, I think they said, right? That sounds pretty amazing.
It's very big nostalgia hit. They're clearly going like real hard for nostalgia.
Yeah.
Which works.
Well, and that's one of those things when the consoles first came out, the next gen ones last year or whatever before Christmas, there wasn't really, I always thought that there were no system sellers. Like there was not a game where I was like, okay, now damn it, now I have to buy a PS4 or an Xbox One because I want to play that game. It's like now they're coming out with them. Yeah. Halo that collector's edition, that will sell Xbox Ones. Uncharted 4 is going to sell PS4s.
It might sell one to me.
Right. That's why I bought my PS3 originally, was to play the Uncharted series.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jeremiah, I saw one for $380 today on Slick Deals.
You can get them for $350.
It was a package, something, I don't know what it was. It was the front page is all I know. I just looked away.
I'll just convince Mark to come over and play it on my house. Hey, Mark, want to play Uncharted on a huge screen? Yeah, you do. That's right. That's my plan.
Can you bring your console?
But I was really disappointed in the EA conference. I wasn't super looking forward to the EA conference, but they said they were going to take you behind the scenes, which as far as I could tell just meant they like half showed you stuff. Like they showed a minute maybe of Battlefront footage, which was really just behind the scenes stuff. It didn't really show you any actual gameplay, just people running around in the engine. And then like they kind of teased Mirror's Edge, but didn't really give you enough information to be excited about it. Like if you were already excited for Mirror's Edge 2, you knew it was coming out, so you were already excited. If you weren't excited about it, they didn't show you anything that would make you excited. It just looked like Mirror's Edge, and they were talking about how they're like showing Faith's journey this time, or a lot of stuff that people probably don't care about. They just want to go jump off buildings. But like it wasn't, and then they showed off Hardline, which could have been a cool reveal if they hadn't if it hadn't all leaked, which I don't know if that's their fault or not. I guess we don't know how the leak happened, but some of their thunder was definitely taken away. But they did have a really cool moment.
There's a few fired EA employees this week.
They did have a really cool moment where they said the beta goes live now. That's the very Apple way to launch stuff.
Yeah. Didn't work as well as how Apple stuff usually goes.
What they really meant was, and the servers are going down this second.
And only a few of you will ever get in.
I don't want to pull the conspiracy theorist thing here, but I applied for the beta 3 times. Okay, haven't gotten in. Everyone I know who's gotten in has premium. Just throwing that out there.
I have premium. I didn't get into the application. Well, I did, but not through the application. And I couldn't get that webpage to actually, like, I was never certain if it actually registered me now or not, because it would keep failing before. It would tell me wait for an email. It was acting all sorts of strange. But I never got, and I certainly never got an email, but I know that a lot of people didn't. For a lot of people, it just showed up in Origin at some point. But the whole thing of it was like, if you're going to make a big statement like they did on stage where they said, go sign up now, you got to be pretty sure that it's going to work well, because there's a lot of pissed off people.
Like, you can rent servers. That's what I don't understand. Like, spend $1 million or whatever for a game's launch, not for an E3 announcement.
It's EA. I mean, they know this is not. This shouldn't be something surprising. It's not like they're Bohemia and they're like, oh my god, I didn't realize so many people wanted to buy DayZ or something.
Well, that's one thing you can give Activision credit for. Call of Duty servers tend to work day one. Like I played the original Modern Warfare, worked smooth launch day. Modern Warfare 2 smooth on launch day. Like, every one of them I've played has been buttery smooth on launch day. So EA has similar money to Activision. Like, I think they could do it. They might be a little too stingy. I don't know. But, yeah, like, it's not like this should be a surprise at this point. Like, they can't be like, oh, we didn't know so many people were going to want to play the new Battlefield game.
Right. And some people had...
Actually, this time, maybe they could have thought that. We didn't think so many people were going to want to play the new Battlefield game. This is amazing.
The same thing happened to Ubisoft, too, though. I was trying to sign up for the Crew beta, and that was later in the day, and that Uplay stuff, the login thing, had all sorts of issues as well, and so it wasn't just EA, but I always think that they should be better prepared for that kind of stuff, because they know, I mean, it's E3, they got to expect that kind of stuff. It's not a surprise. They should have that stuff sorted out a bit better.
Yeah. So, Chalk, what do you think about Battlefield Hardline so far? What do you think about the concept? Let's start there.
I actually thought the concept was not bad. I know a lot of people have argued about the fact that, this doesn't really feel like Battlefield, or it shouldn't be part of the Battlefield franchise or something like that. But what are the alternatives? I know that people wanted either 2143 or Bad Company 3 or something back in World War II or whatever. But you know that given the time constraint, and we knew that somebody was working on another Battlefield game based off the same engine and everything like that. And if they want to go to these yearly cycles, you can almost guarantee that the one in the middle is always going to be just sort of a small offshoot of the big one.
I mean, does EA have another shooter franchise, ignoring Medal of Honor? Do they have another shooter franchise they could trot out to have like a different IP take this game? I mean, I don't know if they do.
I don't think so, no.
Medal of Honor was it, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they kind of, like, they got to stick with the name people know, or they would be announcing a new genre or new series that runs on the Battlefield engine, which people would pick up pretty quick. Like,
right.
I mean, I can see how they made this decision, even though it seems
I almost
a little
think
weird.
that if they hadn't called it Battlefield and called it something else and tried to sell it as a new IP, people would have called bullshit on them and said, that's 98% Battlefield right there.
Right. People are going to be mad either way. That's probably true.
Yeah. But the concept of it is actually kind of fun. I've played it for, I don't know, a couple hours, 3-4 hours maybe in the last couple nights. And it feels a lot like Battlefield 4, clearly. It looks a lot like Battlefield 4. The game modes are pretty fun, though. There's something different for once. Like, there's sort of, some of them are combinations of existing game modes. Like, Heist feels like Rush followed by Capture the Flag. They're enjoyable, but just like any other Battlefield game, something that occurred to me this morning is that, because last night when I played, there were a couple rounds that were not so enjoyable, and so much of Battlefield relies on your teammates. Like, the level of fun you get so often is impacted by how your team acts, how other people on your team are playing. So you can go literally from one round having a great time, and saying this is awesome, it's the best thing ever, to just raging in the next one because people aren't doing what you think they should be doing. You know, it's a lot more dependent on the team to work together than certain other shooters like that.
Do you think that, you know, in Battlefield 2, everyone used voice comms built into the game. Do you think, and no one uses them in Battlefield 4, correct me if I'm wrong, but I never hear people.
Very rarely.
Yeah. So do you think it's because Battlefield 3 didn't have them, people got used, they went to other options and no one's come back?
Probably, and you're also always sort of limited to talking in your squad, and I don't know. Yeah, it could be that because in BF3 you didn't have that option at all, that people have found, you know, Teamspeak and or just in Skype calls or whatever. That certainly makes a difference.
Yeah. I've had actually 3 random squads start talking back and forth just on their own in the last couple of days, which actually really surprised me. That's happened once in 7 months of Battlefield 4 and 3 times in 2 days of Hardline.
I've noticed, like in Titanfall, if you start talking, people join in, just no one really gets the conversation going normally.
Yeah, so and that's a lot of times that happens too.
Yeah, so I guess if you have a strong team leader, maybe Hardline works a little better. But how's it play? Like, how is the beta compared to Battlefield 4?
Well, I mean, it has some of the same issues, I guess, as Battlefield 4 does when you talk about hit detection and stuff like that. The game feels a little bit slower and a little bit more sluggish. Like, the movements feels a little odd when you first get into it. You kind of get used to it, though. The gunplay is Battlefield 4's gunplay. Clearly, some of the weapons need to be optimized and all that stuff. But again, I'm actually glad that they're doing this early, because if this was 2 weeks before launch, you could tell this isn't going to be right. So at least they have time. The driving, they've changed a lot. Like, just so there's a lot more impact or reliance on vehicles in the game, and not just, you know, obviously there's no tanks or anything, but just street cars and police cruisers, and they're a lot easier to handle than they were in Battlefield 4, which is good because that's an important part of it. So,
from what I heard, Visceral actually ripped all of DICE's vehicle systems out of the engine and rebuilt the vehicle system from scratch.
So they're not like the pogo stick Jeeps now?
Yeah, like they pulled a DayZ and said, no, this is broken, we're going to rip it out and fix it.
Yeah, they don't bounce as much anymore like they used to.
Collisions are much better too. Like, there's less of that jittery collision craziness going on constantly.
Yeah, if you're driving side by side with somebody else and you make accidental contact, you don't get dragged across, you know, half the map like you do in Battlefield.
While stuttering crazily and having seizures. Yeah, it's awful.
One of the coolest features about the vehicles, I find, is that you can actually lean out of the window if you're a passenger and shoot.
I did see that. That's a cool idea.
Yeah, it is really cool. And also the vehicles are a lot easier to destroy with just regular weapons fire, so you don't have to have an RPG to deal with regular cars, which makes sense. But it's one of those things that I'm glad that they did, because otherwise that would have been awkward, because everybody would just have to run around with RPGs. Yeah.
Yeah. Teamwork can actually take down a vehicle without having to have a mechanic right there, which is nice.
Right.
So I didn't get in. Joel got in, so I'm using his account, and I'll probably play it for the first time tonight. But based on how much you guys have played for it so far, do you feel, I mean, granted the BF4 beta played decently well compared to launch, so there's no real way to tell, but I know Dave is excited.
Tentatively excited.
Dave is like an abused dog. All he needs is the gentle caress of his master's hand, and he comes crawling back pretty much every time.
I'm cowering under the kitchen table right now.
So given how far out it is, we're assuming what, October, November? Do we know for sure?
October 21st.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Are you going to pre-order?
No.
Okay.
But that's because
I heard the conviction in your voice there. Good.
No, I generally don't pre-order, because the only time I've ever pre-ordered was if there's like a really good perk to get with it, where I feel like, okay, it's worth, you know, whatever you'll get. I'm certainly not going to pre-order it and not when I can just buy it the day of for the same amount of money and download it. You know, okay, so maybe I can't preload it the day before. Oh well, I'm going to be at work that day anyway, so I can preload while I'm working. So no, I'm not going to pre-order it, but I think there's enough time for them to iron out a few things. The thing is, the engine is as broken as parts of the engine are. It's mature in a way that they don't have to. They know what the problems are.
Yeah.
That's actually the one benefit people overlook. They say, oh, it's the same crappy engine as BF4. It's like, yes, but at least they know what's wrong with it and what problems people have.
There's 7 months of Battlefield 4 bug fixing that they
right.
can
And you know that
from.
all this CTE stuff that's happening in BF4 is just going to be plugged in to that same engine. So they're going to get those benefits. So there's enough time for them to hopefully have a better launch than Battlefield 4. Now, I don't know what the scope of that game is going to be as far as like how many game modes, how many maps, how many weapons. The beta obviously is limited, right? We just have the 2 game modes, 1 map, and the weapons there's like 3 primary weapons for each class or something. So they're trying to sell it for a pretty high price.
Yes, I think that's the worst problem right now is that the price is too high. I just paid $48 for The Witcher 3 because of their customer appreciation discounts. So, and that's like 120 hours of AAA next gen RPG gameplay right there for $48. And here we are, less than a year from the launch of Battlefield 4, and DICE is saying, "Come on, $60, it'll be all right." I'm like, "Come on now."
This isn't.
And I looked at this earlier. I guess in Canada, where I'm, it's actually $70 for the standard, $80 for the deluxe. And that seems awfully steep, especially with so many people calling it a DLC or something. Like, even if they went down to $50, like even I know it's just $10, but I think there's a certain principle of people just saying like, no.
It's like a nod at least. Like, okay, we get it. We screwed up last time. This is a little bit soon. Here's a discount. Even just for maybe even premium members that have shelled out $120 for some people for the game. That's give us something, please. Like Player Appreciation Month. No, just give us a discount on the next thing you're gonna throw at us.
But you can tell when you look through Origin's list of new games, or even the ones that you can pre-order, they consider Battlefield one of their like premium titles. So it's always $10 more than a lot of the other ones. That, and I think FIFA was the other one I saw. They're selling that for the same price.
That's one of the best-selling franchises there is. Makes
sense.
And
that's one of those people will just pay that because they're addicted to it or something. So
I think with Hardline for me, I was trying to actually describe it to Dr. J, member of our CSG crew, who is not a fan of Battlefield 3 or 4 just because he doesn't get big into the game. So like getting into Battlefield 3 and 4 with the 64 players and all the different weapons it unlocks, it's like a big commitment. He just wants to jump in and play. But he loved Bad Company too. He loved it. So I was telling him today, like, I probably played almost 9 hours now in the last 4 days. Like every lunch break this week has been Hardline at work. It's been awesome. I feel like the fun factor for me reminds me a lot of Bad Company 2. Like I can still have fun in Battlefield 3 and 4. I can kind of get into it more, like do jets or do some serious tanking or do some teamwork and stuff. But as far as just hopping in and having like ridiculous Battlefield moments that are like somewhere in between Bad Company 2 and Payday, the beta really is delivering for me. And I was really skeptical going into it, but I can't argue with how much I've been playing it and how much fun I'm having. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is actually a lot of fun. That's probably one of the first things that stood out was that the first time I was playing the first night, me and my buddy that were playing together, we were laughing a lot.
Yeah,
just because it's fun to race down the street in a police car with somebody hanging out the side, shooting all over the place. Like, there's still it's almost like it's a little bit less serious than the typical Battlefield stuff.
It is.
So. And you know, like when the guys are running around, they got a bag of money on their back, and cash is sort of flying out. It's little things like that.
Yeah, I love that.
Just it's a different feel from Battlefield, which is why I think I don't have a problem with the Battlefield name because it's clearly part of that franchise and it feels very familiar. Anybody who's played Battlefield 4 or 3 can just hop right in. So, but it's different enough. It's that perfect intermediary. Like if they branded it Battlefield 5, I'd be upset, and I think everybody that would have good right to be. But this is just I can see this being a good bit of fun.
Yeah, new ideas can be good. Yeah, the price is the main thing. I think the moment that sold me, I am definitely a sucker for a couple different game types, open world, apocalyptic survival game, Stalker, DayZ, that kind of thing, and then cops and robbers. I have been waiting for a decent cops and robbers game. That All Points Bulletin MMO a few years back that actually the studio that launched it shut down a month later. The game was so broken. Gosh, I put like 40 hours into that alpha. And that game was so broken just because it was like an open world cops versus robbers thing. I love that concept. And that game had been in development for, gosh, like 8 years. So the moment for me in Hardline is, the robbers are grabbing the loot. I roll open up a patrol car with the lights and sirens going. The criminals just threw the bag of loot into a white panel van with the door open. They go by the other direction, shooting out the side door. There's like cash flying out the back door. My teammate hops in my car. I do like a burnout. We're chasing him down the highway shooting. It's like a helicopter police chopper chasing him with a spotlight going. I was like, okay, this is ridiculously over the top fun.
Mm-hmm.
So
the other thing that people forget about Hardline is the single player, which I'm looking forward to, because Visceral's doing that, and they've done the Dead Space series, so they're known for good single player. And I know people always think Battlefield, they think multiplayer, but I know that DICE has been trying to make better single player experiences for the past couple of games. BF3 was really, I mean, the Bad Company single players I always enjoyed. The BF3 one was okay. The BF4 one was merely a little bit better.
It was visually impressive for sure. It was
Yeah,
like a showcase almost for the game. It's worth playing just for the water effects.
I mean, I've enjoyed shows like True Detective and that kind of stuff. So having that could actually be kind of fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So that might be the only thing that they can use to justify the price tag, if that's a solid single player that delivers like 10 plus 12 hours of single player.
Odds of that are low. Odds are low.
Right. I don't know how long the Dead Space ones were, but at least they were high quality.
They were longer, but they were slower. Like they weren't. Yeah. It wasn't. The problem with Battlefield and Call of Duty is they try to be like balls to the wall the entire time, and that just gets old. Like both Call of Duty Ghosts and BF4 single player took me right at 4 hours a piece, and there's just way too much going on for 4 hours. Like it's just big set piece, big set piece, big set piece.
Right.
I can't remember like. You can't remember what's going on. You can't remember what happened 10 minutes ago. You're just flying from cover to cover, spraying bullets at stuff. They've come, so it can be 10 hours
back to action there.
Yeah. And then they try to throw in the super emotional melodrama stuff to try to like suck you into it or something. But really all I was thinking the whole time was, that's Omar from The Wire. That's Omar from The Wire. That's Omar from The Wire. And that's all I remember about the campaign.
I thought I'm in charge. Damn it. All we do is follow Irish.
That
was
was
my
pretty
biggest
funny.
thing about BF4. First thing they do is say, you're in charge. Okay. Irish, what do we do?
Yeah. That actually, I want to touch on briefly something that really bothered me about E3, because this is the first E3 I really noticed it. Every stinking game trailer went for melodrama. The super like emotional, sad songs and like trying to make, the big old emotional. Even in the Call of Duty trailer, they showed us the thing that every Call of Duty game has. The guy about to die, like right at the end of the level. The guy's like, it's okay, leave me, get shot, like you're laying on the ground.
On stage, like
You've
no
got
one's
shrapnel, and he's
watching
like,
the story.
Yeah, it's like, come on, guys. Every game, several times per game, you do this. And for some games, like for The Division, okay, their story trailer was really well done. Even if the game's crap, that trailer was beautiful. Metal Gear Solid, that's kind of what they always do, so fine. NHL was like way out of left field. It's like, does anyone care this much? Like, is anyone tearing up watching your hockey game trailer? I guess dubstep has been replaced by really sad, slow music.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed did it. They had that Lord song.
Very much so, yeah.
Yeah, which, whatever.
I mean, there are some games that are more story-driven like that. Like, even Uncharted is more about the character a little bit more. Like nobody...
I'm okay with it for Uncharted. They earned it. Yeah. They did a good story.
Nobody cares about the characters, honestly. It could be anybody. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's games that really do good stories. I'm fine if they do that because they do an awesome job, but it's like every game is trying to force this in and it's not good. It's really bad.
But you can try. They're trying to get better at that. Like one of the trends I noticed is that everybody in their games now is hiring actors out of the right out of the movies or TVs. Sometimes it used to just be voices, and you can be just like, I know that voice. I have no idea what from, but that sounds familiar. And now you can actually recognize him. I mean, you literally have Kevin Spacey from House of Cards.
Right.
Honestly, I personally can't wait to buy Call of Duty Kevin Spacey. I'm pretty excited about that.
But
so they're
really
trying to push that connection with people, I think.
If they want those to be really good, though, they need to hire some script writers.
Yeah.
Because that's still where video games are suffering a lot, is like The Last of Us had cinema quality dialogue. And that's one of the only games I've ever played that actually did. And I know it's hard to have cinema quality dialogue over such a long game, but like if you want to be taken seriously, man, the stories and the dialogue have to get a lot better. And then I think some games like Battlefield and Call of Duty just need to admit what they are and stop trying so hard at that and put all the effort. Like, if you want to be Michael Bay, be Michael Bay. Michael Bay is good at being Michael Bay, and I thoroughly enjoy all his movies except Transformers 2. Even though they're not great most of the time, but what he does,
what you're getting.
Exactly. For what he does, he's the best. I mean, he's an adjective, really. A Michael Bay movie, people know what you're talking about instantly. So if you want to do that, do that. If you want to do, like, I don't know what another good comparison would be. If you want to be Spielberg, put the effort into being Spielberg and don't try to be both. I don't know. It really irritates me, and it irritated me that so many games were trying to push that so hard.
It's a big sell. It makes people, I don't know, it draws them into the game itself, and that's what E3's really all about, right? Is you get those 2-minute trailers. I mean, some games had literally 6-minute gameplay trailers where they showed a lot of stuff and had devs commentating on what's going on, but probably more than half, or 75% of the trailers were all just less than 2 minutes long, and it's just, look at the cool graphics, listen to this music, that guy looks familiar, you've seen him on TV before, and more information soon.
with some stuff thrown in, the most advanced AI system the world has ever seen. Yeah. Particle textures you've never seen before and will never notice when you're playing the game. And running at an unprecedented 905p at somewhere north of 30 FPS.
The future is here.
I mean, yeah, it's...
That still bugs me about next-gen consoles, is those weird resolutions. It's just like, really, you can't find it.
But they're upscaled. They're upscaled, though, so it is like playing at 1080p,
But my Xbox 360 upscales to 1080p.
So that I'll say, I've been experimenting. I went to a projector instead of a TV when we moved. And so at that large of a size, you really notice compression artifacts, like you notice bad effects. You can just see the seams a lot easier. It's like watching a movie in the theater on lower quality. Like if something's low quality, you will see it. And what I've noticed is, so maybe this is the angle that the consoles are going for. Pretty 720p upscaled looks better than crappy 1080p. Like good 720p, if they can do more effects, more fancy lighting and stuff, it does look better upscaled. Mm-hmm. But in film, the jaggies and stuff aren't as noticeable. Like anti-aliasing isn't as big of a deal. But I can kind of see where they're coming from. But at the same time, it really just means their stuff is slow.
Yeah, I would say doing full HD with jaggies would be worse than doing like 720p with like a even just like an edge finding filter that just does like a fake AA blur thing on the edges would be better than full res and just jaggies.
Well, do the consoles support FXAA? Because that's like one of the lowest overhead anti-aliasing formats there is, isn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I haven't seen it personally.
Okay.
Like used anywhere. So.
Yeah. Joel probably wouldn't be the right person to ask about that. We have no console expert to consult.
Oh, no.
Okay, well, turning from that, Chalk, let's talk about you for a minute. I like that eyebrow jump right there. No. I like to just interview everyone who comes on a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure.
What made you get into... Now, did you do podcasting first or YouTube? Like, which did you
No, I did podcasting back when YouTube still had you upload no more than 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. That was still back in the old days. There were no gaming videos on YouTube because recording stuff was a major pain in the ass, and then nobody could actually upload files of that size with their internet connection, and then you couldn't really put it on YouTube anyways. No, I started podcasting in 2007.
Wow.
So halfway through, like a year into Battlefield 2, about that. At that time, the idea came up between me and a buddy. We're just like, you know what? We're always hanging out after the game talking about it. Let's just record this and see what happens. And nobody was doing any of this stuff. Like there was no level caps and jack frags on YouTube that had, millions of subscribers and stuff like that. It was small community sites. You get a forum, totalbf.com, I think was the the site that was around the most. So it was very different back then, like a mere 7 years ago. But yeah.
Well, 7 years in the internet is, I mean,
Yeah.
basically a lifetime. So you've been podcasting consistently for 7 years?
There were some breaks in between around Bad Company. It was a typical thing. Everybody was playing Battlefield 2 on the PC, and then the next Battlefield Bad Company came out, and it was on consoles, and everybody went like, well, I don't have a console. I've never needed a console. What am I supposed to do now?
Keep playing Battlefield 2.
Yeah, so it slowed down a little bit after, I guess it would have been after BF 2142 was out, but really got back into it with BF3, because that was sort of, I always thought of BF3 as the one that united the community for better or for worse, but it brought everybody back together onto the same game. And Bad Company 2 I never played on the PC, because at that time literally my gaming PC had gotten so old and I hadn't had a real reason to buy a new one. So when BF3 came out was when I upgraded my PC and got back in the swing of things. So
lots of people have been playing Battlefield games since Battlefield 2. You've been talking about them that long. Like, does the Battlefield franchise still excite you? Like, is it... I don't mean that to be too personal a question, but
yeah,
like, even after all this time, this is obviously something you still... Like, you're still very interested and invested in the series.
And maybe that's why I'm more open to things like Hardline, because it's something different. There is still... I still have to see another Bad Company. I know a lot of people want 2143. I wasn't a big fan of 2142. It wasn't quite my kind of game in a way, but I am still excited about Battlefield as a series. I do notice though that the busier I get with real life and stuff like that, the more I'm drawn to single player games, because you don't have to rely on, you know, all your buddies being available at the same time. And as everybody gets busy, and playing Battlefield with purely random people is not the most fun experience in the world. So it's always good at that point, and to just, you know, throw in a good, you know, Watch Dogs is a good example of a great single player game that I've devoured, and that's why I'm looking forward to the single player in Hardline as well, because at least it will give me something else to do when, you know, you hop on Teamspeak and you're like, damn, nobody's around. What's going on? And those moments happen, and
real life, boo.
Yeah. And when you're busy, you got to take your opportunities when you can get them, right?
Yeah.
If you have 2 hours to game, you can't just say, "Oh, I'll do it later when my friends are there." It's like, no, these are the 2 hours I have. So
this is my happy time. Where is everybody?
Right. So yeah.
So
I think there's still a lot of good things for Battlefield to come. I don't know where they're going. I do hope that Battlefield 5 isn't. It's got to be different in a way. It can't just be the third sort of near modern combat type of scenario.
It does seem that the prevailing feeling, and the people who've been playing Battlefield since, you know, before Battlefield 3, the longtime PC Battlefield fans seem to kind of feel like Battlefield is at a crossroads right now, where like the next game or two are really going to make a big difference between Battlefield lasting or it kind of fading into obscurity and then getting relaunched 7 years later.
Well, the people that say that, though, are the hardcore players that have played for so many years. And when you look at it, and clearly EA's plan is to model themselves after Activision and Call of Duty, because financially that's a sure thing. You know, like that looks good on paper and everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do a lot of things similar to that. And Call of Duty has never really been, like, every game looks the same to me. Like, I can't keep them straight in my head because they all look the same. And I haven't played many of them, but... so I don't know if they'll ever do something truly revolutionary, because it's become a cash cow for them. It's it is their one only shooter that we've talked about. It's their only IP that does that. I think maybe they were trying some stuff with Medal of Honor and that failed, so they'll probably be even more gun shy on that front. So if Battlefield 5 is just another modern shooter, it wouldn't surprise me, because when you look at it, a lot of the sort of the masses of players that play it, that don't spend a lot of time talking about it after. They'll just sit down after work, have a beer, and play a couple rounds with their friends and call it a night. They're fine with it. And that's probably a large amount of people paying EA, and they'll pay the $70 for Hardline, and everyone's happy. And some of us old-timers are going to sit there and be like, I really want something different. Damn it.
Do you think
back in my day, we had mods and different modes, and World
like
War
mods,
II.
I don't think that will ever come back. Even though there's going to be people that always will want them. I don't see that happening ever.
Do you think we're all going to be the virtual World War II veterans? I remember when we were on the shores of Normandy.
I remember when you didn't like a game, you could change it. Well, you didn't know how to, but you could go find someone else who did all the work
for free.
Do you feel like the annualization of most game franchises, of most AAA game franchises, is hurting series like Battlefield?
I don't know if it's hurting them as long as they don't have the same dev doing it every year, because I think if they do that, then they will just be churning out the same product with a couple changes every year. I actually don't think it's all that bad. I mean, I know I put in hundreds of hours into BF3, but I don't see that trend continuing. If I can put in 100 hours in a game and then move on to something else, I'm probably okay with that, because my attention span, and it just be like, you know, it's enough of that. Let's do something else. And there's so many choices out there too. Not just from EA or Battlefield, but just in general, the amounts of games out there. And with limited time, I'm all right with that if there's something new for me to do.
Well, that's kind of like with Battlefield 4, even they released this patch that made things really awesome. Like, the game runs really well now. I still haven't felt like, I just haven't felt the desire to go back that hard. Like, you're right. Like, as you get busier, as real life gets more and more busy, I don't know. So maybe it's not that the games are getting worse or more like each other or just not innovating. Maybe it's just where we are in our lives. We are no longer in the correct place to fully enjoy those games. You think?
Yeah, and when people say that, you know, I've played 400 hours of BF4 and I hate the game and I'm tired of gaming in general, it's like, okay, then put that away for a while and go out there, look at indie games, look even other AAA titles. I mean, just looking at E3 and the list of games that I wrote down afterwards that I want to keep tabs on, it's going to get really busy. and some of those games, like Witcher 3, will have, you know, a lot of hours to invest into. And it's not the same thing over and over. If you're looking at the next Dragon Age or Mass Effect or those games, that's actually many, many hours of unique content. Whereas you could make the argument that, you know, the 500th hour of Battlefield 4 is really the same as the first 10 hours of it, in multiplayer anyways. So it depends. And I think the more that happens, the more your friends do that as well. So then your group of people that plays the one game shrinks. And I think some people get upset with that. But then all I would suggest is look out there. There's a lot of other cool games out there as well. I don't think Battlefield as a series is ever going to get to the point where it's going to be rebooted. It doesn't matter how loud certain people cry about what they do in the next version. It's grown so big now that it can compete with Call of Duty, and people are just going to buy it. And then they're going to enjoy it. They're just not going to play 800 hours of it.
1 second. Just type in a quick Twitch reply there. Yeah, like, I don't know. It's weird. Like, I still think, you know, I think there's something to, like, as you get older, your taste in what you want in a game changes. And I definitely think now, I play multiplayer games now more just to hang out with my friends than for the actual experience of the game. Like, the game just has to be fun enough that we can have a good time playing it. Which for me, I guess right now, Titanfall is the fun, hop in, hop out, hang out with people game. And then ARMA also follows up with that. Then kind of DayZ. But really good groundbreaking games, I think, are always good. Like, I've been going back and playing Age of Empires 2 a lot lately. And that game is still good. The AI is so dumb. You can tell it's like a 13-year-old game or 14-year-old game. But, you know, it's still good. And it still feels like a fun, fresh experience when I play it. And maybe it just is like, maybe you just need those breaks every once in a while. You know, I'm not super excited for Hardline because I don't feel like I really played Battlefield 4 out. And I wasn't amazingly pumped for Battlefield 4 because I was still having fun in Battlefield 3. And, like, I feel like we're getting these games pushed at us. And I feel like, well, if I like the series, am I missing out by not playing it? But I don't really feel the need to play it that bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
The other thing, purely from a podcasting point of view, annual releases are actually a good thing.
Yeah, because you got all the
try
features
talking about the same game for 2 years.
yeah. Well, we've been talking about DayZ for a long time.
Right. but now with YouTube and just like there's literally oversaturation of content. There's only so many ways that you can talk about, you know, a game that hasn't changed in 12 months or whatever. So. Right. I think it's a good thing as long as, you know, like I said, if they do switch up the dev teams And I guess if you have sort of that intermediary game that's based on the same engine, but with a new skin on top and different story, game modes, whatever, different feel to it, I actually think it's a smart way to go.
Yeah, I agree. So I guess we're all just kind of in the same boat, sitting, waiting to see what happens with Hardline. Like, this could be a really awesome game. It could be pretty good, or it could launch like Battlefield 4 did, and that'd just be like more nails in the coffin. But something makes me think like not even EA, and I hesitate to say not even EA would be this stupid, but I feel like not even EA would be that stupid.
I think they think they're in a better place already with it, because of the mistakes and the lessons that they've learned with Battlefield 4. By the way, I want to mention this to the puppy from the chat. I didn't say I didn't like 2142. It just wasn't, at the time, I preferred Battlefield 2.
No, how the internet works is you either love it or you hate it and you should die.
Right, there's no in between. A 2143 would be kind of a cool change. So if they can somehow come up with something unique, even though
that'd be like
since they're working
copying
on
from Advanced
Battlefront,
Warfighter or Advanced Warfare, wouldn't it?
I guess, but then you're going to say that that was copied from 2142.
Well, because like games went from World War II, shooters went from World War II to modern times. Right after Call of Duty did Modern Warfare, everyone was like, "Hey, I guess we're doing modern now," and everyone went
even
to
going
it,
back to World War II would be kind of cool.
Yeah, at this point, I never thought I would say this, but at this point, I'd be up to see another. Yeah,
I just started playing Wolfenstein, and it's a different. It is kind of a cool era to play a game, and obviously that doesn't have any multiplayer, but so that would be cool. But the other thing too, when people bitch about Hardline and stuff like that, I remember the same things being said about 2142 when it first came out, about Bad Company when it first came out, and then Bad Company 2 when it came onto the PC, because it was like, that's not the standard line of this isn't Battlefield.
Means
like,
it's not what Battlefield is to me.
Right.
This isn't how I play Battlefield. How dare you?
But when you look back, there's people still that say Bad Company 2 was the best entry in the series.
And
there's a lot of people who love
2
2142. And Battlefield 2 still.
Which if you go back and play Battlefield 2...
Have you gone back to play it?
Yeah, if you complain about like the hit detection and stuff in Battlefield 4, you don't know. You just don't know.
Oh,
Battlefield
the dispersion.
2 was the game where like someone could sprint towards you and from 30 feet away, you're just emptying your magazine at them, and are you going to kill them? Who knows? And if you think grenade spam is bad in Battlefield 4, you just don't know. Like Battlefield 2...
Striker car can,
Yeah, Battlefield 2 was like the master of grenade spam. So, nostalgia is a powerful thing.
Enemy boat spotted. Enemy boat spotted. Enemy boat spotted.
God, I played that none of just that. It was just full of it the entire round, and it was the commander. Remember how much everyone wanted commanders back?
Yeah.
And now nobody cares anymore?
Yep. No, I don't think I've played any Battlefield 4 matches where I really know that the commander's doing anything.
It's very rare that it makes an impact if somebody's even playing it at all. But yeah, going back to Battlefield 2, that commander was just spotting things all over the place. And you can't turn it off. And I tried to record footage, and the entire video would just be enemy spotted, enemy spotted, enemy spotted. It's like, I can't use this.
And people who complain about the jets in Battlefield 4 being like overpowered or anything, any air vehicles, Battlefield 2 is definitely a game, and Bad Company 2, where air vehicles were way stronger than they are now. So,
we always look back at those games we remember all the fond memories, and we don't hold on to all the bad stuff, right? So every game that's like 5 years or older is the best thing that was ever made.
Yeah, you remember all the fun you had. You don't remember like back then your internet was 500 kilobit per second, and you watched everything in standard def, and you still had VHSs, and you couldn't drive yourself anywhere, and you lived at home, and like you had no prospects.
Stop!
Right, like but all you remember is, oh man, but playing Halo 1 with my friends was so amazing. That's the best game ever. It's like, well, yeah, maybe. But we just sound like a bunch of old guys sitting around complaining about the kids. But hey, that's one of the perks. What's the use of being solidly in your 20s if you can't complain about the kids?
20s.
Well, I'm in my 20s. I don't know. You don't look a day over. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I tell people. I'm not sure.
You're only as young as you feel. And I'm sorry.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
Okay, as we wrap the podcast down, we have Dave's Comment of the Week, a section of the podcast where Dave digs deep into the septic tank of the internet and pulls up a little morsel for us to chew on. So...
actually, the first comment of the week that I have is actually an in-game Battlefield 4 comment. I just saw this in the corner. I was trying out the new Battlefield 4 netcode patch, so I was actually on the ground and not flying a jet, doing some shotgun gameplay and some suppressed gun, something like that. So I'm actually on the ground, but there was a couple guys on my team that were going back and forth over the jet on my team trying to fight over it, I guess. And at one point I just glanced up and one of them, I imagined, took off his fedora, stared at the screen, and demanded to know, why do you keep taking my jet, casual? Like, no irony there at all. I was like, that is hilarious.
Battlefield chat is sometimes hilarious and sometimes, like, it gets nasty real quick.
Yeah.
It's all the anger people feel towards the game and just bubbles over into each other. It's great. I wish more people used voice comms. Like, I wish you could talk to the other teams on voice comms. That would make that game a lot more enjoyable, just to hear the screams of rage.
Oh, man. So many tears. And for our second comment of the week, this is actually, see, TJ Watts, if you are still in the live stream right now, TJ Watts 1207 on YouTube, this is your comment, actually. It is a good comment. I actually laughed out loud when I read this, and I wish Joel was here to read this, or to hear it. If you guys don't remember, we have a Patreon that we started about a month and a half back, just to help us support the podcast. And TJ Watts wants to know, what level of Patreon do we have to reach to eliminate console news from the podcast?
And I know you're joking, but I'm going to go ahead and answer it. I don't like having console news. The only reason we put it in is either to make fun of it when Joel's here, which I think we can all agree is a worthwhile use of time, or when it affects PC gaming, which unfortunately it does a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's like when you have to hear about, like, all the new developments in iPhones, like everyone's gushing about, even though Android phones have had them for 5 years already or something, like that same feature. Like, everyone's going nuts that iPhones are going to get, like, you can swap the keyboards out on them now. I was like, people are excited about that? Like, I have an iPhone. I just given up on that a long time ago. Like, I had that on my Android phone in 2010.
Yeah.
But, so you just have to kind of grin and bear it. That's kind of one of these things. Like, sometimes you just got to talk about what the consoles are doing, because it's trickled down to them from you, and you can sit high on the Master Race mountain and smile that smug smile of knowing that we've been enjoying this for a while. Welcome to 1080p, guys. It's been great. But sometimes you just got to grin and bear it. So we appreciate you struggling through it with us. As we close the podcast down, Chalk, where can people follow you?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter at ChalkOne and at BF Podcast, or just go to battlefieldpodcast.com. That's got links to all the other stuff, to YouTube, Twitch, and the various things. So for the next time that we do a live show, which should be on Saturday, we'll talk some more about Hardline. Then if you follow us on Twitter, you can, you'll know when it's happening, because I don't know exactly when it's happening other than Saturday. But that's pretty much, I keep saying that anywhere you go and look for Battlefield Podcast, usually we'll return the right result for you.
Well, if you're listening to this, links are in the descriptions, unless you're listening to it on iTunes, so I don't really know how you would find those links, but all the links will be in the description. Oh, TJ Watt says he's not joking. He wants to know what level of Patreon support. All right, let's just come up with a number. Let's do it, man. We'll add that as a perk for whichever perk level gets the DayZ server. Is like, what, $250? I think it's the DayZ server. No console news. We'll have to come up with creative ways to give you the news, but that is my promise to you. Dave, add it to the notes so I can remember to add it to Patreon later.
Okay, how about this, Jeremiah? Because I know Joel's going to have a fit about not having console news. So if we hit $250 and we have the DayZ server, which is the current perk, we're going to eliminate console news and replace it with new ways to make fun of consoles. So it'll be the news, which is a constant bash session.
Okay, so I'll have to write the jokes ahead of time and everything. Yeah. And just letting them stream forth naturally. We'll prep it.
Like Onion style console news, just to make Joel angry.
and it'll directly preface 90 seconds with Joel, so he has to go into 90 seconds with his burst blood vessels and the rage all over his face. Yes, this is a good plan. Oh,
I like this a lot, actually. All right, guys, start that Patreon engine's going.
So they can follow you on Twitter, and send me all the links over Skype when we're done. All the links you want included, and I will include all of them. And then you can follow us, of course, Casual Shenaniga on Twitter. Germ Gaming, Evil Viking, and then on YouTube, Evil Viking 13. You guys know all that. We don't have to go over it every time. But and as always, if you listen to this on iTunes, please consider giving us a rating or a review or something. Even if you don't like the podcast, that's okay. But that helps move us up search rankings. I think positive ratings do. Negative ratings may not help with that. But I don't feel like I want to tell you to only leave positive ones. If you want to leave negative, that's cool. Just leave one. But thank you all very much for coming out. We're not going to have a podcast next week because I will be traveling for a wedding. And none of the rest of these slackers want to do it all by themselves, so...
Vacation week!
Since their taskmaster won't be snapping the whip over their heads.
Basically.
The sheep are going to go wander through the pasture a little bit.
Is that another game from Notch, or...?
Hey, yeah, why haven't we seen Shepherd games yet? I feel like there's a lot of sheep beating mechanics that haven't been fully explored. Not that they need to be. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming out. We appreciate you. We appreciate you tuning in and watching every week. And we will see you hopefully 2 weeks from tonight. So talk to y'all later. And Dave, as always, what do?
We stay casual, guys.